It's the 10-Minute Healthcare Marketing Podcast with Tyson Downs. In every episode, we give you powerful, actionable tips to help you grow your business. We'll give you real-life techniques, methods, and strategies that flat out work. The same stuff we use in our business every day to help our clients dominate their local search results and get more patients. We freely give this to you so we can help you on your mission to grow your practice. Our goal? To help you achieve greatness.
Welcome to the 10-Minute Healthcare Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Tyson Downs, and this is episode 2. If this is your first time listening, awesome. We're glad that you joined us. We produce this show every week for you, so be sure to subscribe. You can find our show notes and ask us any marketing-related questions at healthcaremarketingpodcast.com. Come back often and be sure to follow us on Twitter at Titan Web Agency. Now let's get to work. Like every episode, we'll start this one out with our daily dose of motivation. This one comes from John Wooden, the legendary coach for UCLA. He says, "Things work out best for those who make the best of how things work out." For me, that's so powerful because it really teaches the concept of a positive mind, looking at things in a positive light. And when hard times or struggles come, what are we going to do? Are we going to make the best of it and keep going? Or are we going to complain and say, I can't do it because of this or that, or it's somebody else's fault, or things are too difficult, or it's just not going to work? No, heck no. We're going to say, okay, bump in the road. Let's move on. Let's tackle this and let's become stronger because of it. Okay, so let's get into this week's episode, and we're going to talk about how a healthcare professional can get online and what needs to happen for that to take place. I'll speak at a very basic level just because we have so many different experience from those that are joining us. And so you'll have to excuse me if I'm going over things that you already know. I'm going to make sure that those are brand new are going to understand. And today we're going to talk about, number 1, choosing a domain name or your URL, and number 2, setting up your hosting account and what you need to know. So even if you don't know what domain or URL means or hosting, by the end of this episode, you're going to know what you need to do for that. Let's get into number 1, choosing a domain name. A domain is basically the URL or the website address of your site. So the website address of this healthcare marketing podcast is healthcaremarketingpodcast.com. That's what you would put into the browser address bar. You put that in, push enter, and you go there. And you can purchase these domains at different domain registers like Godaddy, or you can purchase them from Hostgator, Namecheap, doesn't matter where. You can purchase them from all over. And when you're choosing a domain name, there's a couple different ways you can go. You can choose a domain that is keyword based. A keyword is a term that you would like to show up for in the search results. So if you're a dentist in Salt Lake City, then a keyword may be Salt Lake Dentist. If you chose to go with a domain name that was keyword based, then a domain could be Salt Lake Dentist, Dentist Salt Lake, Dentist in Salt Lake. That's a keyword based domain. That's one option to go. The other option to go is with a branded domain. That's where you go with something like, instead of Salt Lake Dentist, just say your practice is Smith Family Dental, then your domain name would be smithfamilydental.com or some variation of that. So first, choose what you want to do. I usually recommend going with a branded one as opposed to a keyword one. A branded one is usually easier for people to remember, and a keyword one, at one time it had a significant amount of SEO benefit, or it could help you rank higher in the search engines. Not so much anymore. I mean, it may have a slight amount, but not so much anymore. So I'd say just go with a branded domain. More than likely, it's going to be easier to find a branded domain that works for you as opposed to a keyword domain. Usually the keyword domains are taken up. And then what we need to decide is if what we call them TLD, top level domain. That means what extension are you going to go with? Are you going to go with a .com, a .net, .co, .dental? What are you going to use? I always recommend going .com. You can go with the other ones, but just think about this. If you give your domain out, If you tell a patient as she's leaving, yeah, just check out our website to see the different services that we offer. Just go to smithfamilydental.co. And then you'll have to explain to her, it's not .com, it's .co. And then she'll write that down, or she'll try to remember. She'll go home and she'll put in .com. She will, trust me. Or if it's a .net and you tell her .net, she's going to put in .com when she goes there. Now, granted, not a lot of people will be typing in your URL directly, but some will, and you don't want to lose those. So if there's any way that you can get the .com, then get the .com. There is some newer domains that are coming out, such as .business, .dental, .company, .reviews, .attorney. There's tons and tons and tons of them. The word's out on how those are going to do. We know that the .co and the .biz, .us, they didn't really do a whole lot, and .com is still the dominant player. So it'll be interesting to see. I usually recommend, if you have the budget, domains aren't expensive, $5, $10, $15, $20 for a year. I usually recommend getting the .com, .net, .org, .co, .us, just to kind of protect your brand a little bit. It's always a good way to go. So with those domains, you can go to GoDaddy, Hostgator, Namecheap, and you can buy those. I'll provide a link in the show notes, so you can just click on the link and you can go get one of those domains. When you purchase your domain, you're going to be presented the option for WhoIsGuard protection, which basically just blocks your identity when somebody tries to see who the domain is registered to. Usually that's not necessary. You'll also be presented a number of different options: hosting, email. They have these worthless, in my opinion, SEO packages that they sell for like $2 a month, $3 a month. Just pass on all those. You don't need those. Just register the domain and then you'll be set. You can check the availability of the domain, of course, before you get it. Just go to GoDaddy.com and you can see if that domain's available. And if not, they'll make some recommendations for you. Always be sure to double check your spelling. Just a word of warning. If you have worked with a online marketing company in the past and they bought your domain, Dex, Online Practice, Chiromatrix, Yellow Book, Yellow Pages, a lot of times what they do is they own that domain. If you ever want to leave, then you lost that domain. So I always recommend purchasing the domain yourself. Always purchase it yourself so you have it and you own it. Then you don't have to worry about that. Okay, number 2, we're going to select a hosting plan. Hosting, there's a number of different options that you can go with, and hosting is basically where your website files reside on the internet. So that would allow basically your website to show up in text and images for somebody to see. Some of the more reputable hosts would be Hostgator, Bluehost, Arvix, GoDaddy, Virotech. I recommend Arvix. It's one of the better ones in my opinion. Virotech is very good as well. These will be in the show notes. You just click on the link and set them up. Just look for shared hosting. That's all you need. Shared hosting with features like one-click WordPress installation is always nice. Cpanel Hosting is what I highly recommend. Cpanel will allow you the industry standard dashboard to manage your hosting. Some companies use a proprietary software, which isn't always good. If you have to hire somebody to work on your site for you and they're not familiar with the software, then it's going to cost you more money. Cpanel is the industry standard. Those hosts that I recommend do have Cpanel. WordPress is something that you would install within Cpanel, but we're going to get into WordPress a little bit later. If you were to purchase Hostgator, hosting a baby or a hatchling plan is just great, but the hosting shouldn't cost you no more than $100 a year. Just look for shared hosting with Cpanel, WordPress installation, and you'll be set. So there you have it. Takeaways from today's episode is, number 1, buy your domain and make sure you get a .com. My recommendation is to get a branded version of your company name for your domain. Number 2, set your hosting up. Go to Arvix, Hostgator, Virotech, set up your hosting, set up a shared account, and set up something with Cpanel access. Then you'll be set. From there, it can be a little bit more complicated to set up your website, but we'll talk about that in future episodes. So there you have it. Episode 2 is in the books. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review in iTunes, and let's connect with each other. You can find us at Titan Web Agency on Twitter and on Facebook at facebook.com/Titan Web Agency. So before we go, just a reminder, be positive, be happy, be proactive. And remember, your business, like life, is what you make of it.
Thank you for joining us on the 10-Minute Healthcare Marketing Podcast. Join us at healthcaremarketingpodcast.com for recaps, show notes, and more resources to help grow your practice, dominate your local market, and achieve greatness.